Hello everyone, it's Becky here and I am back for Inktober Tangles 2025 and day number 16. Now, day number 16 we are back to a Zentangle HQ tangle, and this is one that I have used often. It's a favourite of mine. It is a really fun tangle to play with and change each time you draw if you would like to. And it's also very, very simple. So let's dive in. Today's tangle is Tripoli. As I said, a Zentangle HQ pattern, and one that I often enjoy drawing. So let's open up my little notebook, and for day number 16 I'm going to show you Tripoli. Now Tripoli is essentially lots of kind of tessellated, loosely tessellated triangular shapes. So we start by drawing Tripoli by drawing a simple line like so, and this forms part of your first triangular shape. Now you can draw your triangles with pointed corners or with slightly curved corners. I'm going to go for the slightly curved corner option today. So I'm going to draw a three-sided triangular shape. Now it can be like an even triangle or uneven, it's absolutely fine, whatever you decide to do. The next step for this is to aura, choose one of these lines and then to aura that line. So I'm going to choose this line here and simply draw an aura alongside it, and then create myself another triangle or another three-sided shape right next to it. Now I'm going to choose another side of this new triangle and aura that, and then curve my corners to create myself another triangle. And then just continue in this way basically. So aura along a side and then create a three-sided shape. I'm going to go slightly larger here. And then just continue to aura, create your triangles, and eventually you end up filling the space with these lovely three-sided triangular shapes, which create this interesting kind of meta pattern. Now, when it comes to Tripoli, typically you would go ahead and fill these triangles with another pattern, and there is a pattern that is most commonly used. I would say Zentangle HQ tend to use a particular filler for Tripoli, but you can add any pattern you like into these shapes that you're creating. I'm going to do a couple. I'm going to show you a couple of options, one of which is the kind of standard HQ version that they often use, and then another will be one that I like and I enjoy using when I draw Tripoli. Let's just do a couple more over here to fill this space a little bit more, like so. There we go. Maybe one more up here. There we go. Okay, so the kind of standard way that Zentangle HQ like to fill Tripoli is to draw some kind of C curves around each of the three edges of this triangle. So starting in the corner and drawing a C curve like so, and bumping into those corners to create this kind of little space in the centre. And then often Zentangle HQ will add a little curve here to almost sink an orb behind these lobes that we've just drawn. So that is the kind of standard Tripoli filling that is often done by Zentangle HQ. I'm going to do all of these in that same pattern, in this little kind of section of them together here. So just doing these little lines and capping off these corners makes it look as if there's an orb that's hovering below. And these lovely C shapes, so simple, but do give this lovely filling for these triangles. And very repetitive and very fun to draw, this one. So this is the kind of, I would say, standard Tripoli. And let me show you another couple of options. So another option I experimented with was to kind of create another triangle, I suppose, within these triangle shapes. So doing a C curve but in the other direction. So starting in the corner and bringing a C curve up here and then coming back again. And then doing that same pattern on each of the 3 sides of your triangle. And it kind of is almost an opposite to this other version here. So simply repeating these patterns on each side of our little triangle is just going to give a different look to this version of Tripoli. But there's nothing to say that you couldn't do an entire tile filled with different patterns and different fragments, different triangular fragments to fill your Tripoli. I think it is nice to have a consistency because it does create these interesting meta patterns, like it kind of almost looks like a sometimes floral version. So there's lots of options, but I think you can have a play and see what you like the best. And obviously with these little patterns that I'm drawing in here, you could then fill in these kind of spaces in between, or experiment with adding other things. There are no limits to what you can do with this. You can make it your own. So just adding these curved triangular shapes in. Let me just fill the rest of this top section here with our original filler. So sort of got 2 halves of this page now, filled with different versions of Tripoli. Just taking your time and watching those lines come together to create this lovely pattern. Quite like this version because having that little inkiness is quite nice and bold. Just adding those little touches of ink makes quite a big difference. So there you go, that is my little version of Tripoli, and let's add some shade. Now, there's obviously, as ever, different ways that you can shade all of these patterns. I'm simply going to pop a little bit of shade in each of the corners of our triangles here. And then gently smoothing that out, we'll just take away any harsh lines and edges and give us this really interesting pattern. Because I think sometimes the shade becomes as much of the pattern as the actual pen work and the line work as well. And you can experiment with different ways of shading things to create different effects with your tangles and your patterns each time you draw a new tile, and just experimenting with different ways of shading. Actually, if you were to do a whole tile full of just Tripoli, and you could experiment with different ways of shading each of your little fragments each time, it would be a really fun exercise. So I'm going to just soften all of these very gently, and you can see how that kind of just brings it to life a little, adds a little bit more depth and dimension. I'm not really pressing very hard with my tortillon at all. I'm simply just encouraging that graphite to shuffle around the paper, gently soften the lines that we've added, and then very gently just popping a little bit of graphite on the ends of these little, I suppose they look like little sort of 3-pointed stars within our triangles. And there it is. There is my version, or 2 versions of Tripoli that I enjoy drawing. And you can add auras to that and all sorts of different things to create different effects. But a really fun pattern, and one that is definitely worth kind of having in your back pocket to add when you've got some space to fill. So this is day 16 of Inktober, and this is Tripoli, and this is a Zentangle HQ pattern. There you go. Thank you so much for following along with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do hit like and subscribe to my channel for more videos every day in Inktober and then beyond as well. I always post more videos all the time, so hopefully it will give you some inspiration for your Zentangle journey. Thank you so much everyone, and I will see you tomorrow.